Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review. I am so close to opening to review requests again, and this is one that's been on my list for a while, and normally I would be more anxious about getting it done, but thankfully I already reviewed something from this author before, and usually if I've done a review for an author before, I can give myself some leeway in waiting. Because this one required being in the proper headspace for it, and that is Nexus by EJ Fisch. This is the sequel to Dakiti, the first in the Ziva Payvan, I think is how you pronounce her last name. You know, sci-fi names are kind of weird. This is a military sci-fi series, and it is very dense, both in action and world building. This is like high fantasy levels of dense here, but I mean, in the high fantasy versus sci-fi debate, I am solidly sci-fi, so I was really excited to get back to this. But in true indie series fashion, this book is well, let me show you. This is the length of the first book. This is the second. So, as you can see, just a bit bigger. And this one also has a fairly classic type of plot, but one that usually can get me with attention, and that is our protagonist Ziva, the spec ops agent with a long and storied past who's done some morally great things, is framed for a murder she did not commit, and so has to turn to Araska Tarbik, which for some reason feels so Russian to me as a name, to help her, even though, he still hasn't fully forgiven her for being the government-chosen assassin to assassinate his brother for a crime his brother did not commit. And that still colors the relationship a lot of the time, but this book in general solved a lot of problems I had with the first book. Now, obviously, I like the first book. I don't continue with the book in a series unless it is a minimum of a 4-star. But I felt like the first one, Ziva felt a little bit too untouchable, a little bit too stone cold badass, can't get this, that never fails. And also, there was, the idea of a found family, the starting concept of a found family, but it wasn't quite there yet, because Ziva has two teammates, Skeet and Zinni, and I like both of them, but there was always something that kept it from being wholly, yes, this is a found family. And this book does not necessarily push it immediately into that lane, but we are much closer, and you can see Ziva moving down her character arc, because a giant part of Ziva's character arc throughout this series is going to be basically her learning that it's okay to have feelings even in her line of work, and letting people in a little bit more, because she is vulnerable up the wazoo in this one, and I loved it. This is the first book where you really can see that stone cold badass getting emotional and having nightmares and making bad choices, and other characters having to be like, hey, this is bad, stop. We need to get back on track. And I really appreciated that. It is still the same really action-packed plot. A lot of fight scenes, a lot of shootouts, a lot of strange technology, flying cars, and a lot of things where the world building in this series it's going to be simple if you've already done some reading in sci-fi, and obviously if you're, I would assume if you're watching this one, you've at least already read the first book. I'll, of course, have the review down in the description below. But it's definitely one of those, they don't overly explain the technology to you, but if you know the sci-fi tropes and concepts, it makes sense, you know what they're trying to do here. But it's a lot of Ziva in firefights and finding her way out of things, or breaking into things, or being stealthy, and it's definitely at certain times felt almost too focused on the action more than the tension, and that's weird to say, but thankfully as it continued, you started seeing a lot more of the emotional aspects. Once Ziva actually has the downtime, the slow scenes to get emotional, her relationship with Araska is, I don't even know how to explain it. I literally can't tell if it's supposed to be the beginnings of a romance or are they totally meant to be platonic. Literally cannot tell. If it is supposed to be a romance, it is the slowest of burns, which honestly, don't mind. I love slow burns. But their relationship changes a lot. They still have this weird, Araska tells her, I'm always going to hate you for being the person behind the gun that killed my brother, even though he understands that she was just following orders. But there's also more with the found family aspect, you know, Skeet and Zinni being left behind and also being put under suspicion. They have to try and help clear her name as best they can, and they're worried about her. There was also some weird aspects with what seemed like a totally random subplot going on for the first 2/3, where you would just randomly be at this mining town that was controlled by mercenaries, and like obviously you knew it had to be connected with the main storyline in some way. It had to be something to do with why Ziva was framed for this murder in the first place. But the problem was is that a lot of those scenes just kind of felt there. Like they were just like, you needed to be reminded that there's this mining town, because a lot didn't really happen early on with those scenes where it was just, okay, there's this dude Mag, he's being like, you know, intimidated by the mercs, and they're there. And you'd go back just as like a reminder, like, hey, he's still looking for the map the mercs want, just FYI, reminder that he's there. And they kind of slowed down what was a very action-packed book in a lot of cases. And then in the final third, it finally started wrapping up together. Now, I'll admit, I did like how it all wrapped up together here. And there were some like big scenes and big moments. However, it wasn't quite the super high tense action-packed finale of the first one, when they had to infiltrate this like terrorist base and save all these people. And I think it might have literally lasted like 100 pages. So much went down. And in this case, the action was a lot quicker comparatively, especially with how thick the book is, because the book is 450 pages and it was definitely less than 100. So comparatively, the action felt smaller at the end. But I did appreciate how the book is setting up the next one, how it's a character turns to Ziva and be like, hey, I need your help with X thing, and you can clearly be like, ah, yes, that is the mission for the next one. But it also ends with some more vulnerability and Ziva slowly moving in towards found family with the full Spec Ops team. So honestly, my rating for this book probably is like a 4.5, because there were still some struggles with pacing. However, I can so clearly see the improvement from what I struggled with and what I took off a star for in book 1, that I think I'm just gonna give it a 5-star. So it's not necessarily the strongest of 5 stars, but it is definitely there. And I'm definitely curious to continue on, and I believe I already have the next book. Because sometimes I will actually let authors send me multiple books at once if it's a series I know I want to continue with. So at some point, that will be coming out. It will probably be a little while longer because, like I mentioned before, if I've already reviewed books from an author and I'm not in that particular mood for it, I will often push them back for a month because they've already gotten a review from me. And let's be honest, these sequels in series review videos don't do as well as the first one anyway. But in general, I am definitely excited to continue with this series. I like that it is some very nice, hard sci-fi, not straight sci-fi. No such thing. Even though, like, I don't really think there's any queer characters in this yet. But, I don't know. Zinni gives me a vibe. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Yes, I am still currently closed. And yes, I'm still currently annoyed by that. I'm working on it. End of November is still the end goal. I want to get at least 1, if not 2 more books off of my review list before I open it up to a ton more. And I'm going to have like brand new rules for my review setup. So if you're interested, most people probably aren't, but if you are, I will have a video on that sometime later this month. But in general, thank you so much for watching. And with anything else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.